And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. In this week's episode, we'll be talking about several interesting topics. So, first, we have Amazon, the tech giant, e-commerce giant, is venturing into other industries by making their own TV. What's the reason behind it? We'll talk about that. Next, an up-and-coming anticipated game from Sony's PlayStation's catalog, Horizon Forbidden West. But there's a slight hiccup if you own a PS4 console, and if you want to upgrade it, let's say if you can own or if it's available a PS5 console, it's going to cost you to upgrade it. Is it fair? We'll talk about that. Speaking of issues with companies, Apple has having some internal problems with regards to how they treat their employees, whether that's true or not. We'll discuss that also. On a similar boat, we have another company, DoorDash, where their workers are in revolt, protesting in front of the CEO's house. What's the reason behind it? We'll also discuss that. And next, we'll be talking about now, a lot of companies have been using or leveraging AI or machine learning to be able to predict customer behaviors, preferences, and so forth. And even companies now, or a company in this case, is using AI to be able to predict if a business will succeed or not, whether that's actually possible or not. We'll take a closer look. And lastly, one of the most expensive homes in America is under how should you say it? One would think that a very luxurious home would be up for grabs. A lot of people would be wanting to have their dream home in a particular big house and a big spacious and prime location in, I think, in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills. Well, that's not the case here. So what happened there? We'll take a closer look at that one. Anyway, as I mentioned, so for our first topic, we're talking about Amazon's rise from being an e-commerce giant to their cloud services, and then venturing into the streaming services with Amazon services, and then now they're also trying to consolidate their businesses by offering different products and services, and obviously they're trying to offer technology to better improve your experience at home, especially being in lockdown or staying at home for most of the time. So Amazon is pursuing a different path, or consolidating, so to speak, by offering a TV unit for your household, so you can watch their content in their TV, you can buy their items on the TV, and everything, all the entertainment that you need will be offered there. So here we have, according to businessinsider.com, Amazon is close to launching its own TV in the United States. So obviously, the reason behind here is obviously consolidating. That's why it gives credence regarding when companies are growing too big, becoming monopolistic. Because in cases like this, consumers may be at the losing end if that were the case here. But let's look at Amazon's reasoning why they are pushing this venture, so to speak. So they can roll out its own Amazon branded TV as soon as October. That's already a month away. And obviously they already have Amazon Basics to offer. But obviously manufacturing TV is not as easy as it looks. Obviously with the likes of Samsung, LG, Sony, a lot of companies have been trying to produce high quality television, from regular LCD to OLED screen. Could be quite expensive. Now, can Amazon reach that same level? We have to wait and see. And obviously, in order for them to be successful, they have to partner with an existing manufacturing firm, say maybe a Chinese company like TCL, or a different company. And what's interesting here, that it's been in the works for the past 2 years, involving two teams in particular: Amazon Devices and Lab 126 here. So obviously they're going to compete with the likes of other electronic giants, as mentioned. You have Samsung, LG, and Sony, to name the major players here. What's interesting for them is they're offering uh, a different package in a sense, since they'll be offering Alexa, similar to how Google is offering their Google Assist for watching or enjoying your streaming services at home there. Now, question is, will people adapt to their technology similar to how people are taking advantage if you're an Apple user with Siri as your companion here and so forth? Now, they're going to be offering us big screen TV sizes only, as little as 55-inch all the way to 75 inches. But the question here is, will the TVs be of high quality here, similar to other companies here? So obviously, making television sets is not cheap and it's going to be expensive, but the company, as Amazon as it stands, has the resources to do that. But will they be targeting, premium customers, or is it trying to cater to majority, which I think more likely, because based on their demographic in their Amazon platform there. Now, question here is, will it be a successful endeavor for the company? It's mentioned here that it's unclear how successful this seemingly scattershot approach has been for increasing Alexa's engagement with user. So maybe trying to entice people to use their software Alexa more and more by offering TV, so consolidating it, as I mentioned, with other offerings or other products here. And obviously, uh, people who are familiar with it, as mentioned, that the software Alexa is only primarily used for simple functionalities like playing music or asking for time. So nothing too complex here, not like how maybe Google or even Apple is offering here, unless they can improve their products or their service so that people would be enticed to use it, especially for voice activation, I think. So it's not just the TV experience using remote, maybe 10, 20 years down the line, people would be using voice activation and say, Siri, turn on TV, or Siri, show me Netflix, and things of that nature. So good luck to Amazon. I'm sure they'll do just fine. Anyway, on a related story, different story in terms of gaming here. So we mentioned the one of the more anticipated games, Horizon Forbidden West. By the way, I haven't finished the first one yet, so it's kind of interesting what the story would look like. Anyway, so if you still own a PS4 console, and trying to acquire PS5 nowadays is quite difficult because of the limited supply, and you're planning of playing it in the old console and then eventually shifting to the latest console here, you'll encounter one small problem here. Even if you own an older console and then a game you already purchased, you'll be required to pay an upgrade fee, which is kind of stupid in a sense. Obviously, it makes them more money, but for consumers per se, we already bought the game, we already bought your consoles, not just one, multiple consoles. We're playing the same game, you're charging us for an additional fee. Question is, will it be any better? Are there any additional content that we're getting? Because the fact that we're paying for the same game using a different machine or technology here, or GPU in this case, why should be they charging us? And the fact that counterparts like Microsoft is not charging extra if you're playing from an older Xbox One, or what's the other one? I forgot what the model is, and all the way to the Series X now. They don't ask them to pay additional fee. You pay a one-time fee for the subscription, and then you can play your games in multiple platforms all at the same times. Now, obviously, this got the gaming community riled up because they have promised before that they were going to give it as a free upgrade. Well, let's take a closer look. Here we have, according to the Verge.com, where is it? There you go. They mention that, or was it? Yes. So that you will be required to pay a more expensive version of the game. And what's kind of interesting here is they are asking you to pay for the digital copy rather than a physical copy, which is kind of iffy if you think about it. They are discouraging consumers from actually purchasing physical games more so they want you to shift to a digital content base console so that you have to buy more space, which is not easy right now for upgradability, and it's going to cost you a lot more. So you cannot do trades anymore if you have digital copy, especially if it's a favorite game. Then if you want to sell it, you can do it now. You can do it anymore. Similar to how CDs, old games, old movies are have resale value here. And what's interesting here is Sony mentions that it has no plans for that kind of offer, which is kind of infuriating if you're a consumer, because this is very anti-consumer if you think about it. Ask Charging you for a new game since because it's costing them a lot of money, that's not our problem, right? That's why they have to offer us a tremendous game to convince us why should we pay a certain amount. Now, similar to how Nintendo is offering their games, for their AAA games, they charge a premium there, a fixed premium price, then that's it. Now, asking you for the extra freebies here to get extra items, obviously it's the choice of the consumer here, but asking them to pay a pony up the extra $10 or so, could obviously amount to billions of dollars if you compute the number of users worldwide here. Anyway, so what's interesting here, they're asking you to buy a more expensive digital deluxe edition that they call it. So from $60, $70 actually, to now $80. So how is it any better to just buy the game and upgrade it? And there's another edition which is even more expensive, the collector's edition, which is costing you almost $200. Then the Pierce the Resistance is the Regala edition, which is going to cost you a hefty sum of $260, similar to, close to a new console already if you think about it. So obviously standard edition will only cost $60, and then $70, which is for the PS, which I don't see the point. The game is the same. The console should be more expensive, right? That's why you're paying for more. But the game is practically the same. They're using the same CD, that the content is the same. How is it that they're asking us to pay for more? Obviously, until consumers complain about this, companies like Sony and even EA try to get away with murder if they could get away with it. So obviously, a lot of backlash has been happening recently, and they have reneged as of today regarding that said issue here. And obviously, for fans like me, I like collecting physical copies so that if I want to sell it, I could sell it for a sum, and then someone could borrow it. It's easy to trade rather than if it's digital copy, you're the only one who can use it. So there's limitation, there's benefits. Obviously, you can download it and then play it again, but there's a concern here, like what did with the PS3 server here, where they shut it down permanently. So if you don't download the game previous to their shutdown, then you cannot download it anymore in the future. So what happens to that? You paid that money, you can't even download it again, which is kind of concerning. That's why I'm very apprehensive of adopting a fully digital game library now. Buying a physical plus a digital would be preferable, depending if you have multiple consoles here and there from different locations. But obviously not everyone is afforded to have multiple consoles at home. And also for the more expensive games that they're asking you to purchase, it doesn't come with game disc, so it's all digital here, which is kind of suspicious if you think about it, of what their agenda is, so that you'll be forced to adapt their digital games only, eventually phasing out the physical copy, which is people would still prefer, because there are limitations as to digital games if you want to download it, as I mentioned. And obviously options is always better for consumers here, which I think I stand on the side of options is always better, unless they can come up with a reason why we should avoid or leave or stop buying physical games anymore. Anyway, What's interesting, they're offering the expensive editions with offering bonuses, impressive statue, which is as if it's any better for the game here. It's more cosmetics if you notice, but obviously there will be people who will be interested to purchase those items as a collector's items. But for the majority of gamers, they just want to play the game. We pay for a full-fledged game, no microtransactions, no loot boxes, just the experience of playing the game. The fact that we've spent a lot of money for the consoles already, whether you're making money out of it or not, Sony, I think it's fair enough because if you don't provide us a better experience, there's always Microsoft or Nintendo to offer or pick up the slack here, which is kind of sad if you think about it. Anyway, on the same boat of companies having issues here, we were talking about here we have Apple, the big tech giant also, who has been faced with the recent court battle with Epic Games, and also the government, the U.S. government has levied them regarding the antitrust issue, and now there's an internal problem that's arising from people within having complaints about hostile working conditions here, which is, does it have merit? Is this a symptom of a bigger issue here? So let's take a closer look. According to Engadget.com, as mentioned, so Apple faces a probe from the U.S. Labor Board over complaints of hostile working condition, which is obviously, if you're an employee or anyone with the same, normal person, you don't want you want to have a conducive work experience so that you can be productive here, right? Or help the company as a whole. And having not so exciting or conducive working environment doesn't, connote or give you the ideal to do your best in a workplace here. And if that's the case, the company does not benefit either way. Take a look at how Activision is dealing with the crisis here, and obviously there are a lot more companies that are in the same boat. But the question is how you deal with it. Do you just you just push it away, deny it, keep your those employees quiet? But people will keep on speaking out, and eventually, all secrets will come to to the general public here. And as mentioned here, the issue is that current and former employees. So if it were just former employees, you could say that maybe they have a grudge with the company for letting them go for whatever reasons could it be. But both current existing employees who are working in the company and outside, has it got to do with what the pandemic has been ravaging our society, or is it even before that, regarding stories of harassment, retaliation, even sexism in the company? Obviously, we want equality for men and women here, but the U.S. National Labor Relations Board is looking into the cases that has been filed against Apple here regarding, there are people, voices accusing the company of permitting a hostile work environment, which we don't want to promote here. And obviously, what Apple does here will matter for future employees planning to work in the company here. So here we have a complaint from Miss Ashley Jovic. I hope I'm pronouncing her name properly. Who is a senior engineer programmer. He mentioned that he talked with the company about what's going on regarding unsafe working condition and sexism in the workplace. And what happened to her, she was put on indefinite paid administrative leave while Apple looked into them. And what's interesting here, she had to file a charge against the employer, obviously Apple here, alleging there were 13 instances of alleged retaliation against her. And this pertains to workplace harassment, reassigning her supervisory responsibilities to colleagues, and give her undesirable tasks. Now, if this were true, this is not looking well for the company. What's your rationale here? Because is it because of superiors flexing their power over, regardless if it's whatever gender it is? And obviously this is unfair practices, and no one wants that. Even I don't want to be in that situation here. And it's not just her that encountered this. There were other employees by Share Scarlett, who was also in the same situation here. So obviously, as more people come come to share their stories here, and obviously as more stories compile, Apple cannot just simply ignore it or shove it away and as if nothing were happening, like similar how Activision is dealing with the current situation here. Now, for on Apple's side, they mentioned that they stated that they have always been deeply committed to creating and maintaining a positive and inclusive workplace. If that's the case, then why is it that there are issues that's propping out left and right here? Because if there were no issues, it won't be as prominent as what it is happening right now. Now, they go on to say that they take all concerns seriously and we thoroughly investigate whenever a concern is raised. Now, question is, are they covering their ass here by stating what is appropriate for the situation? The question is, are they actually doing something to change the environment so that these things doesn't fester in the long run? Because you're a multi-billion company business here, and you employ a lot of people here, and actually Apple is asking people to go back to their offices here but with the current situation still, people are apprehensive regarding going back to the office because of health safety protocols, safety issues, and whatnot. And why should I risk everything our company is going to spend the necessary cost if I got hospitalized and everything else, right? Anyway, then they go on to say that out of respect for the privacy of any individuals involved, we do not discuss specific employee matters. But then again, if more issues are cropping up left and right, then they have to address this either way, because if this goes to court, people will eventually find out that these things did occur, and what did the company do? What is Mr. Tim Cook doing with regards to this way? Because as the leader of a company, are you just trying to push it away like how other companies are doing, or are you going to face it head on so that everybody benefits here? Since if companies take care of their employees will work even harder to help the company grow and be more successful. Anyway, on a similar scenario here, another company is on hot waters with regards how it's treating its employees here. So here we have DoorDash, the that offers similar to how Grab offers here in our country. So the article here pertains to DoorDash workers are in protesting outside the CEO's house, demanding better pay, tip transparency, and PPE. Now, obviously, the hot content issue in California was, are gig workers classified as temporary or regular employees here? Now, obviously, unions are stating that they should be classified as regular employees, but obviously this business model will only work if their employees are classified as temporary or gig workers here. Obviously, the flexibility is given to both sides here. The company reduces their cost by not paying the benefits here, and the employees there per se can only manage what do you call this? They can pick and choose the time that they want to work for the company. So meaning it benefits both. Now, obviously, with the given pandemic here, obviously there has to be a give and take discussion here, since all the risk now goes to the part-time workers here. Question is, what are the companies doing here? Now, the company mentions that they're doing their part by providing PPE, but in terms of not doing more to help your employees, whether it's part-time or full-time employees here. Anyway, so the issue here is, protesting outside the home of the CEO is never a good idea here. Obviously, this is a private home of a person. So obviously, how can you protest here amicably? You know, who am I to judge? But obviously, there's an issue here that's persisting here, and a group of 50 workers who are affiliated with the advocacy group, as mentioned, We Drive Progress and gig workers rising travel caravan style in the house in San Francisco, demanding better pay, transparency of tips, and minimum wage increase. Now, obviously, those are different issues that they need to tackle point by point here. Now, for tips transparency here, now obviously, company has to be able to communicate it better in terms of the app. If customers are, let's say, paying cashless, there should be an app that states how much are they tipping the delivery person and or the rider themselves, so that the driver would automatically be credited with how much tip it is, or do they have to pull it first with other drivers or riders here? With regards to minimum wage, obviously you have to increase it, because companies like DoorDash and other even ride sharing app who uses gig economy, or are in the gig economy, rely on those people, because if there's no people driving their business, then the company will fall sooner rather than later. And another key issue, which I think to stand to agree, is regards to the protection, or personal protection for the employees who are venturing outside in the real world, and you might get infected here, which goes back to the main issue: should they be classified as a regular employee or not? Now, regardless of the situation, I think there should be some responsibility on the company side to take care of the employees, not just giving them proper equipment and then you go do your job and then that's it. There should be some balance here, especially in this delicate situation, because both parties needs each other, the employees as well as the company, because if there's no one delivering those services that you're providing, then the company will not exist in the first place here. And according to a DoorDash spokesperson, he goes on to say, however, we know that today's participants do not speak of the 91% of the California Dashers who want to remain independent contractors. So that's on the side of whether they should be considered gig economy, because I think on the workers themselves, it gives them flexibility, so that they can choose what time they're working, how much they're earning. Now, for those who are reliant on this business, then that's why I keep on mentioning that I think up to a certain point, just like in marriage, if you're living together for some time, you'll be considered as married couple in sorts. I think there should be a law regarding about that for employees. If you're working, let's say 40 hours per week, then for let's say 6 months, if you continue to do that, you should be classified as a regular employee already, rather than just part-time employee. Because if you're part-time, then you shouldn't be doing this as a full-time job, right? So obviously that has to be decided by the governments themselves. And then the spokesperson goes on to say that the reality is that the passage of Prop 22, which again is the classification of gig workers as a regular employee or part-time employee, have raised concerns regarding increasing their local minimum. I think that's a case here, because if you don't increase the minimum wage, actually it shouldn't be called minimum wage. It should be livable wage, not minimum wage, so that they can live off with those income. And obviously in this case, the rider has to rely on the tips rather than the base salary, and obviously the company tends to get the bulk of the revenue rather than the rider. If it were a 50-50 share, that's a totally different discussion altogether, right? That would seem fair, because the rider is taking the brunt of the risk nowadays rather than the company themselves. Anyway, according to a gig worker, Rondu Gant, I hope I'm pronouncing his name, he mentions that working for DoorDash for almost 2.5 years, he mentions that he also drives Uber and Lyft just to get by. So meaning the minimum wage is the main issue here. Then if they don't improve the salary or incentives, why should they help the company? Then fewer and fewer people would be working. Then eventually no one would use their services. Obviously it's a lot of supply and demand, and it would hurt the bottom line for DoorDash here. He goes on to mention that it offers a base salary of $3 per hour, which is pretty low, right? And obviously they have to rely on tips, as I mentioned. So this is not a good way of earning a living here. Obviously, if you're working in a gig economy, there's a lot of risk involved here, as mentioned. And he goes on to say that DoorDash pays so low because they want to make it affordable for customers, which is tremendous, but bad for the driver or the rider themselves. So that one sacrifice for the other, then obviously they'll be forced to look for a different job, or in his case have multiple jobs just to be able to support himself. And the issue here is it's not just the health protocols, and the driving unsafe condition is another, which is goes on to say that they receive little to no support from the company, which is, the onus on them to do their part also. Obviously, providing cleaning, sanitizing equipment is one thing, but obviously, again, treating them as if they're your regular full-time employees, a thing that they need to consider, so that, regardless if their classification is part-time or full-time, that, they can do their job to the best of their ability. That benefits everyone. The rider is benefiting, the consumer is benefiting, the company is benefiting, everybody wins, right? If one of the parties are not benefiting, obviously one would suffer, and eventually the whole system would suffer. And in his part, he doesn't necessarily want to be considered a full-time employee or an employee. He just wants to make sure that he's getting, he can earn a decent living or even a better living doing this type of job here. Now, obviously, the company has to decide here. If things get even worse to the point that no one uses their service, obviously it's about low supply and demand. Anyway, the cost of doing this, obviously the danger and the minimum wage is not acceptable in any aspect that you look at it. So unless more people bring this issue up, DoorDash is going to get away with it as much as they can, because obviously they're a business here, survival of the fittest, so to speak. Anyway, so transparency is another issue here regarding the tips, as I mentioned. So do they have an app that indicates if a consumer, let's say you pay $15 or so, if it's cash, maybe the tip, it's good, it's easy enough to identify. But if it's paid cashless here, so there should be a separate app. So this is what you pay, and then after you receive the item, would you give them a tip, and how much tip would you receive, so that you give back to your, if they provide a great service, fast service at that, and then the rider would find out if the not just the review, but also the tip that they would generate. So if they did a better job, you get 10%, 20%, or even more, depending on the service that you provide here. What's interesting here, DoorDash has agreed to pay $2.5 million to settle a lawsuit alleging that the company stole drivers' tips. So which is, doesn't look good. Very anti-employee here, stealing from what customers has given to their drivers here. So so that's why it's kind of interesting this issue is propping up now. And DoorDash as a company has earned over 100 million in profit before earnings before income tax, but obviously had the net loss of 102. But that's not the point here, because no one's going bankrupt here just because the company is not doing well. The day-to-day workers who's doing the brunt of the work has to benefit in some shape or form here. And stating that the company CEO has not been actually paid, but nonetheless he's paid millions of dollars here. It's not as if he's struggling, where he's living right now. Can't compare that to everyday workers who's earning a measly paycheck, trying to survive on a day-to-day basis here. So making excuses doesn't help you in your cause here, but addressing those concerns would be a step in the right direction here. Anyway, next we have is in terms of business, right? A lot of businesses are in trouble with what's happening right now. Now, what if you could predict a business success right on the onset? Could it be predicted? Well, a company here is using AI to be able to do that. So, according to techtimes.com, this AI company could predict a startup success here, which I'm very interested and kind of suspicious, because a lot of research has been done to identify what makes a business successful, grow, and all of those things. But, until now, no one could still predict it. Now, could AI do a better job? Well, a lot of companies are using AI to different varying success, because no AI is perfect, right? But anyway, let's take a closer look here. Now, they're stating that it could have a 90% accuracy. I'm curious as to how are they able to do that. But they mentioned that they're using machine learning models to look at tons of companies showed here. Now, how big of a company sample size are they looking at? I'm just curious to see here. Anyway, according to M Broker, they mentioned startup turns up to be a complete failure in most cases, which is kind of true, because it's survival of the fittest, and if you don't plan for your business, you're planning to fail automatically. And it's the first year that's the most crucial part. And what is it? Is it about financing? Is it about the concept, the product, the service you're offering? Is it the marketing strategy that you're offering? Or all of those things, right? So could be one, could be the other, but is there one general formula that you can consider that if we are able to pinpoint this key factors or indicators that would indicate your business will do well regardless of industry here, that would be tremendous. But I'm very apprehensive about this proclamation here. They're going to say that 10% of startups end up being a failure. Actually, I think even lower if you think about it. Especially here in a country, majority of our businesses comprise of micro, small, medium enterprises. I think around 99%, 90 to 99, 90, 99%, and only less than a percent comprised of large corporations here. So you could just imagine the impact of or the struggle that our small businesses are dealing with, especially with the current climate that we are encountering. And we have here CBI Insights goes on to state that 42% of unsuccessful startups is due to misleading the market demand. Yeah, I could say that because creating a unique product will always create new demand here. So could make sense there. But the thing that they mention here is according to Fundera, they mentioned that 82% of failed ventures have a problem with their cash flow. And I think I tend to agree with this statement here because at the end of the day, no matter amount of planning that you do for your business, if you don't know how much capital you need to manage your business, to even sustain yourself for the first year, if you don't forecast properly, plan accordingly, and manage your business on a day-to-day basis, that's why it's difficult to do that, then by the end of the year, more often than not, you're in the red, having to borrow money or close your business altogether here. And question is, could AI anticipate this, predict this in a more accurate manner so that businesses could prosper and eventually, which is according to the article here, I think the main goal of this AI development is to help investors here. So you can charge them for a fee for, will this business do well? But at the end of the day, it's more about, if it's for investing purposes like stock market or so, it's all about fundamentals here, looking at the financial statement of the business. But in order to have a financial statement, one has to be in business for several years, not just 1 year, right? And it's kind of difficult to project that on the first year. Typically, it takes a few years or even decades to be able to truly say that the company has solid foundations here, so that when you look at it, they're trending upwards or downward, or it's scattered all over here. Anyway, according to a group of scientists, feast.org, they are able to develop an AI that could accurately predict whether a startup will end up being the next big thing, which is I'm kind of iffy about, but I like the idea. So using machine learning tools for AI predicting, look into over 1 million. So that's a lot of companies, but still, I think they should limit it first to a particular industry, see if the model would work accurately, because look at different industries as a whole, trying to generalize it kind of could be misleading, because let's say an industry in the tech company versus a manufacturing or service industry may vary depending on the application here. And how about in terms of region, right? In terms of years in the business here, would that matter also in the success viability of a business, right? So again, there's been a lot of studies that have been focused on the longevity or sustainability of any business. Question is, how about startup, which is kind of difficult to anticipate here. But if they can do that, then good for them. Actually, the result of the research testing was already predicated with the success rate of startups. We're looking promising, but I'm not holding my breath. We need more studies on this one. It was published, so if you're interested, you can look at the Journal of Finance and Data Science of KEAI. Okay, so using machine learning could be beneficial for a lot of cases, but my concern is similar to like how Tesla is trying to develop their autonomous vehicles. It's not yet reached to that point. So meaning their AI capability is not yet that powerful in a sense. So if they cannot predict all possible scenarios in terms of driving conditions, what more in business case here, which is even more riskier since you're investing a lot of your money here. And if you think that only these factors would be the key determining factor, how about personality? How about behavior? How about intentions, thinking of a human behavior. Obviously, those are difficult things to factor in that, that does matter a lot in terms of, viability of a business here. Anyway, for our last stories, we were talking about how businesses are struggling. Well, in this case, in a building house would think that people would buy it left and right if it's in a prime locations like in Hollywood or Beverly Hills at that. But that's not the case here with is it just because of the pandemic here? Here we have an article from CNBC.com. The most expensive home in America has defaulted on its 165 million in debt. It's now heading for sale. Now, it has been pegged the most expensive home in America. It was being sold for a ghastly amount of $500 million. I don't know who's going to buy it. Even if it's an ideal home, right? Big house, prime location, obviously it limits already who can afford it. And why should they buy it? Because obviously every individual has their own preferences. If I were in that place, I'd rather build that location from the ground up to my specification, not to developers' specification. But anyway, so the mega mansion we're talking about is in Los Angeles, which was listed for $500 million. Now, the owner has defaulted with regards to the debt here, and obviously no one's biting here. That just goes to show that you may have bold plans, you may have prime location, but the product itself at the end of the day is not desirable. So anyway, so it's a big estate, a little over 100,000 square foot. It's called The One. Well, it's not The One anymore. Placed into receivership by the Los Angeles County Superior Court, and it's expected to be relisted at a lower price. Again, asking for $500 million for a house, I don't think even billionaires would think about it. If they're going to build their own dream house, they would demolish it and build a new one from scratch, which is that's how I would do it if I were given a chance. Anyway, the developer we're talking about is Niall Niami. Is Niall a guy? I'm not sure. Let me see here. Niall. Oops. Miami. Yeah, it's a guy. So, as mentioned here, so Niall developed this and offered this as his life mission. Now, it would be preferable to his taste. Now, whether clients would have the same taste, that's a different matter here. And he mentioned that it's the biggest, most expensive home. Just saying it's the most expensive doesn't mean it's better, right? And having a price tag of, what do you call this? Having a price tag of $500, $500 million is not ideal here. And obviously issues with regards to delays and fundings has not helped its cause here. And obviously with the large house here overlooking would be enticing for many people, but again the price tag I think is a little bit overkill here. It has 9 bedrooms, multiple kitchens, you need multiple cooks also, a nightclub, 4-lane bowling alley, salon, gym, 50-seat theater, running track, underground garage for 50 cars with 2 auto turntables and so forth. So who's going to own it? So it's either you're a fashionista of sorts or an artist that that has this type of lifestyle that you need this type of house. I don't know. Now, obviously, in the case here, Niall is banking on that since there are a lot of people with a lot of money. But the question is, should they spend on this type of luxury there or extravaganza here? Which I tend to disagree because as it shows that no one has bitten the bug of buying this product here or house, and no amount of marketing that you do here, which I think they did, right? Yeah. So they did a lot of marketing here by offering they're doing interviews, photos in social media, and creating special video tour in last April, and obviously trying to hype it up. But at the end of the day, you already have a limited number of consumers. Actually, you should have gone directly to those owners who are looking for a new house or a new mansion or mega mansion at that. Well, it's a wrong strategy trying to cater to look nice for the public, but at the end of the day, the buyer is only limited to maybe, let's say, less than 10, I think. Anyway, it's unclear whether the property will still sell at an exorbitant price. I think it would go down tremendously or even lower. And what's interesting here, even billionaire like Jeff Bezos bought a house, a Warner estate in Beverly Hills for the sum of 165 million. That's nowhere near 500 million dollars. So obviously it has to make sense, even if you're filthy rich. But it is my take here, uh, and especially with the current climate here, people are apprehensive of spending a lot of their hard-earned money just to buy a house, whether that's their taste or not. And you know it's a big risk, it's a big reward if you're able to sell it, but in this case, well, it wasn't on their side here. Anyway, that concludes our live stream for this week. So thank you again for watching. If you want to read the full article of any of the topic that was discussed today, you can check out the link in the description below. For more business news, stay here with Business Focus Live. Or maybe you can check out my other segments. Business Update every Wednesdays. You can check that also for more news. Also, maybe you might be interested for some tips regarding analytics, if you're interested in that one. Anyway, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoy these types of content. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Same time, same channel. Well, actually, this time I had to change it because I was going out, so I had to do it an hour early. So roughly same time, but same channel always. Take care.